Hello, my name is Ben Beaumont, and I'm going to talk to you this morning about my continuing journey with prostate cancer. It's a good journey because I'm still here. I was first diagnosed with stage 4, which is the final stage, the stage before you say goodbye, in April 2004. That's a long time ago. And I remember talking to the doctor in the local clinic who diagnosed me with a category Gleason scale 5+5 of the prostate cancer level. I said, Simon, what would you recommend to someone of my age? Because he had previously told me that any operation of a serious nature, which this was likely to be, could prove fatal. And I said, what would you recommend to your father in the same position? And he said, I would tell my father to go ahead. And I said, right, let us go ahead. I'll come back to the operation and the aftercare and etc. later. But let me tell you how I came to find out that I had prostate cancer. I was living in Hong Kong at the time, and I had spent a couple of hours meeting with friends at a little bar in the village of Mi Wo, which is on the island of Lantau, from which the ferry runs from Lantau to the main island of Hong Kong. I had left and was walking back towards the bus, which would take me back into the main part of Lantau, where I lived in a flat. On the way back, my urine tract, or my urine control, collapsed, and suddenly my trousers were soaking wet. I wasn't drunk, I'd had a drink. I was devastated, and I thought, how am I going to get back home without people noticing? There was no way. So I had to get on the bus, bear all the looks of derision from the other passengers, and get home. I thought, why? Why has this happened? Is it part of my lifestyle? What is it? And I thought at that time that it was purely to do with the aging process. And I didn't think too much about it, except I thought this is going to happen again. God, I did not look forward to that. Anyway, a few days later, I was spending a few hours with somebody who has become one of my closest friends, Roger Thursby. Roger spends a lot of his time on the telephone. He is a brilliant communicator. And while he was on the phone, I was looking at some of the books Roger had in his office, come living room. One of his books was a medical dictionary. And I have just seen a blue tit on the tree outside. And it's so lovely because some people are trying to get me to demolish or cut down the little tree that I have outside. If I'd cut it down, then I would not have seen the blue tit this morning. Anyway, I was with Roger and I looked in the dictionary and I looked under uncontrolled urine flows. And one of the options described in the dictionary was prostate cancer. And I thought, okay. And instead of putting it on one side and ignoring it, I thought, I will go down to the local clinic and get myself tested. I met a charming doctor there who carried out a test. Then he carried out a biopsy because he said my prostate was swollen. And he then told me that I had the serious level of cancer which I described at the beginning. So that's the journey. The next little element in the saga was the operation in July of that year. And I was ready, but frightened. And the consultant who was going to carry out the operation spent the part of the evening prior, when I was prepped and ready in the hospital, telling me that I should not proceed because the likelihood of my dying on the table was very high. I said to him, please leave me, I'm ready. Whatever happens, I am ready. And in spite of that, he was so concerned that he remained for almost 2 hours until he gave in and the operation was carried out. It was a very long operation, somewhere in the region of 7 hours, and generally it was very successful. I was very fortunate. And I thank Simon and his colleagues very much for all that they did. I will then say that I took a decision in November to return to England. It was not an easy decision because I had made up my mind in 1993 not to return to England at all. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. I might mention that I'm having a very good morning. Days vary tremendously, and as I will tell you later, I'm in the 15th day of a chemotherapy round, the first round, and I'm feeling remarkably good. I think during this presentation my hair will fall out, but hey, I am still here. So I came back to England on the 4th of November 2004, and my treatment was transferred to the local hospital. I had a marvelous consultant at the outset and superb physio guidance from Jane Newman. She tried her best to teach me how to organize pelvic floor exercises. Now, those of you watching, especially men, will not know the importance of pelvic floor exercises. They are to tighten the control of the muscles around the control of urine flow. I have never fully succeeded in mastering that exercise, but it's very important. And instead of men shying away from it and saying this is something that women do, and by the way, there is an enormous amount of female incontinence. I haven't talked about male incontinence yet. I'm going to mention this. Part of the removal of the prostate gland involved removal of parts close to the prostate in order to rid my body of as many of the cancer cells as possible. And that meant that I had no control over my bladder. I was incontinent, and for 5 or 6 years I was completely incontinent, wearing incontinence pads, and you get used to them. However, about 5 years along the line, my incontinence stopped. By the way, I should tell you that once you have had a prostatectomy, your erectile function goes. You also, if you have radiation as a result of a follow-up, to the prostatectomy, the radical removal of the prostate. That means your body makeup changes, and unless you have had your breasts or your chest radiated at the same time as the prostate is being radiated, men develop breasts. I was asked whether I wanted to have my breast radiated by a charming registrar called Kennedy, and the blue tit is back again. How beautiful, the sun is coming through. Anyway, and I said no, because I didn't feel that I could face additional radiation on another part of my body. That was a mistake, but it's not a major matter. What I'm trying to get through by this little monologue I'm having is that from the age of 40, in spite of what the general guidance given, men should have a prostate cancer test. It is only a blood test. Only if the medicos think that your prostate is questionable will you have a finger or biopsy. And even then, good God, it's just a finger in your anus to test whether the thing is swollen. Are you really going to care if it saves your life? Are you that proud? Heavens above. So, every year, most doctors will say no at 40, wait till you're 50. In my humble opinion, it's too late, because the earlier that your possible diagnosis is identified, the better it is for all concerned, especially you, the person carrying the cancer. In the majority of cases, people identified at an early stage, 80% can be saved and lead a normal life without the joys that I have described to you earlier this morning. I'm going to stop now.